right, everybody, we welcome you in live here on a Friday. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Super Bowl 60 coming up on Sunday, and then just like that, the NFL season's over. Although here in Ohio, our season was over a month ago, nonetheless. But normally I feel like the NFL season flies by. I don't know about you guys, and maybe it's because there was a collective just sense of misery across the state when it came to the NFL this year. I mean, you have the Browns and the Bengals both picking in the top 10 of the draft coming up in April. So I think that's why this season felt so long. I mean, at times, like if the Browns are bad, the Bengals were good. And even when the Bengals, weren't making the playoffs, I mean, the Browns technically have the most recent playoff appearance, which is crazy. I'm not saying that to troll like I usually do, but that's kind of the reality of it. But this year, things were as bad in Cincinnati. It was worse in Cleveland, but it was just bad across the board. Vibes were low. Vibes were bad. And I feel like that just stretched out this season like you wouldn't believe. But that's where we're at. I mean, that when in week 2, when Joe Burrow went down with that turf toe injury, that seemed like ages ago. But the season's wrapping up, coming up on Sunday, and then it's all about free agency. It's all about the draft. It's all about the schedule release. It's, all the off-season fun, nonetheless. But again, happy Friday. We welcome you in. Last night, the NFL awards show. No surprises, really. To me, there were no surprises. I mean, Matthew Stafford coming away with the MVP. My only pushback to people is I feel like a lot of people are trying to water down what Matthew Stafford accomplished. I see a lot of people saying, man, there must not have been any good MVP candidates this year if 37-year-old Matthew Stafford comes away with the MVP, and I cannot disagree more. Last season, Bengals fans were furious that Joe Burrow was not more seriously considered for the MVP. He threw for 4,900 yards, Joe Burrow did last year. In 2024, he threw for 4,900 yards. He threw for 43 touchdowns across 17 games. He completed 70% of his passes. I mean, he was phenomenal in 2024, but my only pushback was not because I hate the Bengals. I just said I don't think an MVP should ever go to a quarterback on a non-playoff team. Like, I was adamantly against it. I thought that Baker Mayfield deserved the MVP last year more so than Joe Burrow. I thought Sam Darnold deserved the MVP award last year more so than Joe Burrow. Again, not because I'm a hater, but I just felt like if you are a quarterback that's putting up similar stats as that, and you're on a winning team versus a losing team, and I know they finished above 500, but they were not a playoff team, I don't think that should be the case. And I think deep down, a lot of you Bengals fans would agree with me that you wanted your quarterback to win it, but you also believe that, the MVP award should not go to a quarterback on a losing non-playoff team. So there's that. I mean, Baker Mayfield last season, another phenomenal season. He threw for 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. He completed 71% of his passes in 2024, and he did that across 17 games as well. So, 2 great seasons from Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield in 2024. The reason I bring that up is because a lot of people are trying to, water down what Matthew Stafford just accomplished, winning his first MVP. I mean, this is his 17th season in the NFL, and he just won his first MVP. I bring up the stats of Joe Burrow from last year because a lot of you believed he should have been more seriously considered for MVP last year. Well, if you're going to say that, you can't sit here and say Matthew Stafford didn't deserve the MVP this year because the Rams were a winning team. They were a playoff team. They advanced to the NFC Championship game. And at 37 years old, he comes home with the MVP because he threw for 4,700 yards. He threw for 46 touchdowns. He threw for 313 more yards than the next closest quarterback in Drake May, and he threw for 15 more touchdowns than the next closest quarterback in Drake May, who, of course, Drake May has his New England Patriots in the Super Bowl this coming up weekend. Now, keep in mind, just to put this into perspective, how special Matthew Stafford was this year. Matthew Stafford's 2025 season was the 8th time in NFL history that a quarterback threw for at least 4,500 yards and 45 touchdowns in a season. That's according to ESPN research. 6 of the previous 7 quarterbacks to do so won MVP awards. So only 8 times has a quarterback thrown for 45 touchdowns and over 4,500 yards. And Matthew Stafford becomes one of those. He wins an MVP, just like 6 of the last 8 who accomplished that statistical feat came away with it. Only Drew Brees in 2011 and Aaron Rodgers. The only one who didn't was Drew Brees in 2011, as Aaron Rodgers also reached those thresholds that season as well, and he ultimately won it. So Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees both accomplished that feat in 2011. Ultimately, Aaron Rodgers got the MVP nod, one of his 4 that season. So nonetheless, Matthew Stafford went 8 games as well without throwing an interception in the middle of the season. During that stretch, he threw 28 straight touchdowns. That's an unbelievable stretch as well. According to Elias Sports, that is the longest streak of passing touchdowns without an interception by any player since play-by-play was first tracked back in 1978. Yeah, I'm not going to hear it that Matthew Stafford, oh man, talent must have been bad this year if Matthew Stafford wins it. No. He deserved it. I think his season was more impressive than Josh Allen's season last year. Matthew Stafford deserved it. And I think the fact, when people say he's 37 years old, I think that's what makes it even more impressive. We used to talk about quarterbacks that were aging as, oh man, we need to start looking for their replacement. But we've seen as of late, the older quarterbacks, I mean, they've been prized possessions as of late. I mean, they've been, we're not pushing these guys out anymore. Now it's about, these guys can contend and compete and lead teams. Tom Brady in his 40s left New England because they thought it was time to move on, and he led the Buccaneers to a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, who is not the Aaron Rodgers that he once was, but he led the Pittsburgh Steelers to an AFC North championship this year. Right? We see this all the time. I mean, a 45-year-old Phillip Rivers hadn't played football in over a half decade, jumped off his couch and looked like a guy in his mid-40s that hasn't played football in 5 years, and he was moving the ball up and down the field, throwing for touchdowns, and it was a phenomenal story. Joe Flacco, an unbelievable story. I mean, you thought that his career was done the second that he left Baltimore. You could argue that, yes, he won a Super Bowl in Baltimore, but some of his best statistical seasons have come post-Baltimore years, which has been pretty wild. You look at what he accomplished in Cincinnati this year. The bottom line is, I just don't think using age to discredit these quarterbacks anymore makes a whole lot of sense, because I think these aged quarterbacks still have a lot to offer, and I think we're seeing that with Matthew Stafford. Now, and by the way, you guys should hope that this is the case, because if you are fortunate, like Cincinnati is, to have a franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow's by the way, I should know this. What is Joe Burrow's age? I know it's close to 30. Is he 30? Is he 30 yet? I think he's 29, if I'm not mistaken. Joe Burrow's 29 years old as of February, as of right now. He'll be 30 this coming up season. He'll be 30 in December. So bottom line is, Joe Burrow's been in the league for 6 years. By the time he turns 30, he'll be in the midst of his 7th season. I mean, Matthew Stafford just won his first MVP in year 17, and that would actually be along the same timeline as Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow plays another 10 years or another 7 years, I mean, that's pretty dang impressive. That'd be 14 years in the league, and that's still less than the timeline of which Matthew Stafford's been in the league. So you should hope that the NFL is very open to aging quarterbacks, because what we saw from Matthew Stafford this year was pretty phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. Now, yesterday on the show, we talked about Jason Fitz. Jason Fitz has been on before, and he's made the comparison of Joe Burrow, talking about him, comparing him to, of course, comparing him to Dan Marino, saying that he's the Dan Marino of our generation. And yes, I think that comparison makes all the sense in the world. I think that he is definitely the Dan Marino of our generation as of now. The reason I think it's unfair to call Joe Burrow the Dan Marino of our generation is because we kind of need to wait and see what ultimately happens. Like, Joe Burrow could still win the Super Bowl. He could win multiple Super Bowls before his career is all said and done. Will it happen in Cincinnati? You would hope so. When you look at the weapons that he has and the fact that he's taken this organization to the Super Bowl before. But the comparison stems from, of course, of, super talented quarterbacks coming into the league, Marino and Burrow, year 2, getting to a Super Bowl. The perception is, man, if they get to their team to the Super Bowl in year 2, imagine what they're going to do in future seasons as they get more mature and adapt to the league and this, that, and the other. Dan Marino never made it back. And it feels like Joe Burrow's on that trajectory as Dan Marino. I definitely see that, and it is the same as of now. But there's another quarterback that I look at and say, to me, Joe Burrow fits that mold. And I said it briefly in passing on yesterday's show, and I had a couple Bengals fans reach out who were not pleased with me. I actually thought yesterday's show was fun. We talked about the Bengals offseason plans, and I feel like I conversed with a lot of different Bengals fans. A lot of you in the chat right now, I appreciate. Like, we had a good show yesterday. I feel like we had a lot of ideas. Matthew Sense. We're on I call him Matt now. He said to call him Matt. Usually him and we butted heads, but we got along great yesterday. We were just talking about the Bengals offseason plans. I didn't even think I said anything that was worth upsetting Bengals fans yesterday, but it happened. It happened anyways. When there was a Bengals fan that was absolutely insulted that I said that Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford are very, very similar. I like Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford's a hell of a quarterback. He's a Super Bowl MVP quarterback and now a regular season MVP quarterback. What is wrong with taking a quarterback that, no disrespect, has accomplished a couple things at a significantly higher level than Joe Burrow has to this point? Why is that an insulting remark to compare him to Matthew Stafford? The reason I compared him to Matthew Stafford is I think that, yes, Joe Burrow could potentially be on the Dan Marino trajectory, but I actually think we're going to see Joe Burrow go on the Matthew Stafford trajectory if things don't get right in Cincinnati. And what I mean by that is Matthew Stafford was putting up phenomenal numbers in Detroit. Matthew Stafford had a beyond super talented wide receiver in Detroit. Matthew Stafford's numbers were never the problem. His number one wide receiver was never the problem. It was the organizational dysfunction around Matthew Stafford and Megatron that was the problem. And it's very similar to what's happened thus far to Joe Burrow and his version of Megatron and Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. That was the comparison I was making as of now. Cincinnati could ride the ship. Duke Tobin can get his head out of his arse and actually have a really good offseason coming up. They could be aggressive with $60 million to spend in free agency. They could actually take their time and make sure that they hit on some of these upcoming draft picks. Maybe some of the young pieces they've drafted in the years past that seem to be heading in the direction of bust, maybe all of a sudden figure it out as they've added Al Golden as their defensive coordinator last year. Maybe some of these things get fixed, and this comparison won't mean a whole lot. But Matthew Stafford was phenomenal in Detroit. He had a great number one wide receiver in Detroit, and it was the dysfunction around him that basically nullified all of it. And that's what I feel like we're experiencing right now with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. He's a phenomenal quarterback. He has his version of Megatron, but it's the dysfunction of the organization around him that is nullifying all of those accomplishments. Drake May has his team in the Super Bowl this year. Joe Burrow, I'll take him 11 out of every 10 days. That doesn't make sense, but that's how much. Like Joe Burrow over Drake May, I'll take any day of the week. But Drake May, because he's with the Patriots and he doesn't have as much talent around him, but it's like he because it's a great functional organization, that's why they're back in the Super Bowl. That's why Drake May is able to flourish. He'll never be as talented as Joe Burrow, but he's already accomplished as much as Joe Burrow in regards to leading his team to a Super Bowl. And maybe he surpasses Joe Burrow by winning a Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. I don't know. But the career trajectory path that I see Joe Burrow going on is not so much that of Dan Marino. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. I think Joe Burrow is going to win a Super Bowl. I just think in today's day and age of sports, where athletes, more so than back in Dan Marino's day, have the power to push themselves out of situations, I think Joe Burrow is going to win a Super Bowl. I just don't know if it's going to be in Cincinnati. And that's not me hating. This has nothing to do with me being a Browns fan or anything. It's just, what have you seen from the Bengals that you're going to trust that maybe he gets this right at some point? And not really he, but the organization. Matthew Stafford, he played a decade in Detroit. We're heading into year 7 of Burrow in Cincinnati. I mean, you get to that year 9, year 10 range. It's time to say, okay, if I haven't done it now, I'm not getting any younger. I'm only becoming more expensive. It's only going to become more difficult to piece things around me moving forward. Yeah, I think that the Bengals have a lot of pressure over the next couple of years that you got to at least send Burrow out with one. I'll always view Burrow as a quarterback that's talented enough to have been good enough to win more than one, but you cannot have Joe Burrow leave your organization and not have anything to show for it other than a Super Bowl loss. And by the way, as a Browns fan, I would kill for a Super Bowl loss. I would kill for a divisional round win. I would kill for an AFC championship appearance. And the Browns came close years ago with Baker Mayfield, of course, right? Like, I would kill for that. So I'm not mocking your Super Bowl loss, but I do think it would be a bad look for the Bengals if, when it's all said and done, the only thing that the Bengals have to show for the Joe Burrow era was an AFC championship and a Super Bowl loss. Those aren't little things, but man, he's just too good of a quarterback for that to be the case. Like, for instance, Seattle, you have Sam Darnold. You got to an NFC championship game. You won it. Let's say you lose on Sunday. No one's going to look back and say, man, you squandered the Sam Darnold era. You know, like, you're fortunate to get to a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold, who's very good, by the way. Drake May's very good, by the way. But, you know, like, There's just that Joe Burrow is so talented. And it's the same thing with the Ravens are facing the same thing. This isn't a Bengals critic, me being only critical of the Bengals. If the Ravens, at least the Bengals got to a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. Sure, Lamar Jackson has a couple MVPs on his shelf, but he's never even been to a Super Bowl. Josh Allen has an MVP award on his shelf, and all he ever does is make the playoffs, but he's never even been to a Super Bowl. At least the Bengals have that, but I'll still look back and say, man, if you couldn't win a Super Bowl with Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and T. Higgins, how are you ever going to win one? How are you ever? When's the next time that you'll be fortunate to hit on those type of players all at once? We'll see what happens. I just think Joe Burrow's on the Matthew Stafford trajectory where he's going to be remembered for the majority of his time with the Bengals, but he's going to go elsewhere and ultimately accomplish what he's always wanted to accomplish in Cincinnati, just like Stafford wanted to accomplish that in Detroit. It just never unfolded that way. That's all. It wasn't an insult, but I understand why some Bengals fans would have taken it that way. Nonetheless, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll talk about some of the other NFL awards winners from last night when we come back. And I am curious your thoughts. Let me know in the chat. A lot of people, to me, I think that the Matthew Stafford comparison is actually more complimentary than the Dan Marino one. I'm saying that I think Burrow's going to win a Super Bowl at some point. I just don't know if it's going to be in Cincinnati. Saying that he's the next Dan Marino means that you have no faith that he'll ever win a Super Bowl. So I don't see how I'm the bad guy here. I'm just saying. Titan Graphics is the Miami Valley's choice for custom screen printing, embroidery, laser engraving, and promotional products. Place your order today at titangraphics.com. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back. We got Jerron Holmes with us here in studio. Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Speaking of Dayton, you mentioned Obi Toppin. You didn't get to play with Obi, but he has his camp going on. You're going to be a part of that this week as well. But how cool was that? How surreal was that again? And you're close and friends with a lot of guys. He's a close friend, of course, but seeing another former Flyer not just be in the league, but be an integral part of a team that made it to the finals. How much is that just a driving force behind? You're a very motivated guy to begin with, but how cool was that? It's seeing a guy that played where you did in college and is fresh with putting guys in the league now, but now you're starting to see some of these guys blossom a bit. We'll talk about Kamara in a moment. Yeah. Love Kamara. But how cool was that seeing Obi just kind of take off in the playoffs and the NBA Finals the way he did with the Pacers?
Yeah, I think it was amazing. Like I was telling the coaches, I was just talking with them earlier, just to see what he did. I think New York, they kind of had him in a shell. So when he was able to get to Indiana, he's able to play his full game. It looks like he's more comfortable, kind of like how he was playing at Dayton. He can showcase all of his skills. So he's been killing. I thought he was a very critical piece in that Indiana team, especially in the finals. Yep. You can easily see it. So just what he's doing is putting on for all the other kids that are coming out of Dayton. So it's just very, very inspiring to see him. Ain't no stopping topping for a reason. He's like that. He's like that.
Tumani Kamara, taken in the second round. Not really sure what to expect with him in the league. Obviously, the build was there. All the draft reports come back, and a lot of teams excited about him. But Portland obviously hasn't been a good team the last couple of years, so that provides an opportunity for him to go out there and get a lot of minutes. And not just what we saw from him at Dayton. He's blossomed. Came into his body a little bit too. guy's been unbelievable, and it's not just Obi dominating in the league right now. He's having a very fun run right now as well. How unique has that been? Because you got to play with him, obviously, and to see his career take off the way it has.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of the things. And I remember when Coach Grant told us when he first went into the league, he said that Samani was going to have a great, career because of the things he does. His intangibles are already so good, especially on defense. He's so locked in on being that guy to guard 94 feet. He hustles. He plays very hard. And then the other things always are going to come. So, he's doing that stuff with Portland. He's setting that tone. He does it all the time. When we played them, he was one of the main guys that were like, man, this guy's all over the place. So, just seeing that is showing how much he really wants it. And it's amazing. I think that he got snubbed the defensive teams. I thought he should have been on there. But his career is going to be amazing. If he keeps playing the way he is, I think he can make it to be an all-star.
Your role with Denver this year, obviously last year getting hurt so early, not really, I'm sure not very clear what your role would have been. Obviously there was slots open. You were going to get some minutes, but what's your role looking like for the Nuggets this coming up season? Again, they had an interesting offseason. There was a lot of stuff floating around out there. What direction does Denver go in? Kamara got a huge opportunity playing on a team that didn't have a direction, that they're, rebuilding team. You're not on a rebuilding team. You're on a team that has championship expectations. So there's more pressure on you to have to go out there and perform. Right. Have you talked with the coaches? What's your role? What's your expectation?
I haven't talked too much with the coaches about it, but I kind of already know what to expect with this team. This is a team, like you just said, we're not a team that's coming out and we're all new guys. This is a team with a bunch of veterans, a bunch of guys that some of these guys have already won championships before. And then we got other veterans that have been in the league for 7+ years, and their third string guys are vets. So we got a lot of vets, so my role is to go out there, do what I can, showcase my talent, and help win games, whether it's a lot of minutes, whether it's not the most minutes, but understanding on this team, you got to be able to play that role and do what you can with the time you get and then make the most of it. Even if you play well in practices and training camp, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a lot of minutes, especially as a young cat on the team like the team I'm on. So it's just being patient with that stuff.
What is it? 7 straight years now, a different champion's been crowned.
Yeah.
In the NBA, I feel like in the 2000s, it was the dynasty era where you had the Spurs and the Lakers. Lakers technically, had 2 dynasties in that decade. Right. Then you had the super team era in the 2010s, and now it's the parity era right now, where it just feels like every year a different team is winning a championship. I think that, from a fan, you could argue ratings all you want, whether it's good for ratings or not. But from a player perspective, it's now you have the majority of the league who constantly feels like, man, we have a shot this year. This isn't, the next 10 years, it's all LeBron and the Lakers or the Heat and the Spurs, whatever. How cool is that? I mean, seeing so many different teams and makeup of teams have that opportunity.
It's really showing the talent that's coming into the NBA. I think that's why they need to start looking into expansion teams, because of how many players are actually very talented, and it's showing, now that I think also with a lot of the trades that are going on, a lot of players are being traded all over the place now. So that's just kind of what direction the league's heading into. So you might see a different winner every other year. You might see a back-to-backs every now and then, but for the most part, you got a bunch of different champions and stuff. So it's pretty cool to see that stuff.
All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, 937-518-1410. That's the number that you can call or text into the conversation. So this text came in from Steve. Steve still has an issue with my comparison of Joe Burrow to Matthew Stafford. Let me be clear. Matthew Stafford with the Lions, Joe Burrow right now with the Bengals. If I had to pick between the two quarterbacks, I'm still going to pick Joe Burrow. We're just talking about overall, career trajectories. How do we see these careers unfolding? I don't know why this is a controversial thing. I make snide remarks about your guys' team almost every single day. And this is the one that seems to be the one that you guys are the most annoyed with me about, which is kind of wild, nonetheless. But yeah, Joe Burrow, I'll take him over Matthew Stafford any day of the week. But to Matthew Stafford's credit, winning an MVP last night really did kind of push him over the edge as far as legacies are concerned. I mean, he's in a whole other different conversation now. He's won a regular season MVP. He's won a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl MVP. That's a big time thing last night. I thought it was cool to see Matthew Stafford win it last night, as far as that goes. So other NFL postseason award winners last night. How about Myles Garrett? Defensive player of the year. Not a surprise. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of surprises last night. ESPN's right up on him, talks about the preeminent pass rusher of this generation. Garrett turned in a record-breaking season to win his second Defensive Player of the Year award. Garrett's 23 sacks broke the single-season record that was previously shared by Pro Football Hall of Famer Michael Strahan and, of course, Pittsburgh Steelers edge rusher T.J. Watt. Now, Garrett achieved this feat despite being double-teamed or chipped on 39.5% of his pass rushes this season, per NFL Next Gen stats, more than any other edge rusher in the National Football League. So there's that. But while all the focus was on Garrett's pursuit of the sack record, according to ESPN, he took pride in being an all-around player. His 33 tackles for a loss were the second most by a player since 2000, behind only J.J. Watt's 39 in 2012. So there's that. Again, another record-breaking performance for Myles Garrett last year. And, a second Defensive Player of the Year award as far as that goes. Tat McMillan coming away with the Offensive Rookie of the Year, wide receiver for the Panthers. McMillan, according to ESPN, he called his own rookie season average, but the Carolina wide receiver was anything but. Again, he was the 8th pick, a top 10 pick in last year's draft. He had 70 catches on 122 targets. He had over 1,000 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, and he led all rookies in receiving yards and set a Carolina rookie record in that category. And, of course, doing that with Bryce Young. I mean, it does look like Carolina was one of those teams as the playoffs arrived. It was one of those, I'm like, oh, Carolina made the playoffs? Like, they were sitting above 500 pretty much all season. I don't buy into Bryce Young, and it's just the Panther brand, and it's kind of weird to buy into them at this point, but good for them. How about this? Joe Thuney, all this dude does is win. I mean, he was a part of the Patriots dynasty, then he was a part of the Chiefs dynasty, and now might be a part of something really special moving forward as the Chicago Bears, who finally have their quarterback, might be a part of something special moving forward out of the NFC this time with Chicago. Chicago Bears guard Joe Thuney earned his first team All-Pro honors for a 4th straight season and paid immediate dividends for the Bears' revamped offensive line after being traded from Kansas City to the Bears in March of 2025. Joe Thuney comes away last night with the Protector of the Year award at the NFL postseason awards show. The 33-year-old, which, by the way, 33 years old, left guard, did not allow a single sack and logged the second most snaps of anyone in the Bears offense. Not bad. I mean, when the Bears talked about having to be serious about revamping that offensive line, this is what they were talking about. This is why the Bengals, to their credit, like they have invested into their offensive line. Can't sit there and act like the Orlando Brown Jr. was no big deal. When they added him a few off seasons ago, that was the number one offensive lineman available in free agency. I don't think they get enough credit for that, but the problem is like you have to do more than that. The Bears did more than just add Joe Thuney, but he was one of many offensive linemen that they added in the offseason that paid off for them as far as that's concerned. As far as the Comeback Player of the Year award goes, remember Joe Burrow won that last year after missing almost half of the previous season in 2023, bounced back in 2024 by playing all 17 games, threw for 4,900 yards, 47 touchdowns, completing 70% of his passes last year. It was a no-brainer that Joe Burrow was going to win the Comeback Player of the Year award. But who won it this year? How about Christian McCaffrey, running back from the San Francisco 49ers? He had that bilateral Achilles tendonitis and a right knee injury, which limited him to only 4 games in 2024, but he bounced back to his usual self in 2025. It's his first Comeback Player of the Year award after finishing second in 2022. I love the way we talk about this award. Like, man, he came close in 2022. Excuse me. He came close in 2022, but he finally got it in 2025. This is an award you don't want. I mean, I guess I don't know. I think you guys know what I mean, right? Like, no one, like, it's not like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't win it in 2022, but luckily I won it in 2025. You hope as a fan and as a player that you are never up for this award, because if you are up for this award, that means you've probably experienced a devastating injury or are coming off, that type of thing. By the way, can a player that was really bad last year and really good this year, would that count? We always just associate it with the player that was out injured the year before and came back. I don't know that answer. I guess I'm asking. Like, if you were really bad in 2000, like Caleb Williams, could he have potentially won it? He wasn't very good last year, but really good this year. Could Trevor Lawrence have won it? Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he was being looked at as a bust and just a horrible contract by the Jaguars. He bounced back this year. Could he have been a comeback player of the year? Maybe they need to change it to bounce back. I think if I would actually like to see a bounce back player of the year. Get rid of the comeback player of the year. Why do you need to award that? And you know what I mean? I think it's a pointless award. Of all the awards that are given out, I think this is the most pointless one, the comeback player of the year. I think you should reframe it. And maybe what I'm suggesting is a part of the comeback player of the year criteria. I just haven't done my homework on it. Shocker. I think that they should change the comeback player of the year to the bounce back player of the year. You know, if you think back to the season that Caleb Williams had, wasn't very good, but bounces right back this season when you get, of course, an offensive-minded head coach in Ben Johnson, and you look like an elite top quarterback in the league, right? Trevor Lawrence, as I mentioned, he gets, the right pieces in place. They get an offensive mind in place over there, and boom, he has a nice bounce back season. I would like to see a bounce back player of the year award as opposed to a comeback player of the year award. But nonetheless, not a surprise. Mike Vrabel, New England Patriots head coach, coming away with the Coach of the Year honor, taking over a team that won just 4 games in each of the past 2 seasons. Vrabel directed the Patriots to a 14-3 record in the regular season, and then, of course, has them playing in Super Bowl 60 coming up on Sunday. That is a 10-game improvement, by the way. You had Mike Vrabel, 10-game improvement. It tied the 1999 Colts and the 2008 Dolphins for the best turnaround in NFL history. He joins George Seifert and Jim Caldwell as the only coaches to win 14 games in their first season, coming off of those horrific seasons the year before. Not bad. Not bad. Stephon Diggs is quoted, by ESPN saying it's probably the best coach I've ever had, Stephon Diggs says, who's in his 11th season. I don't know how he does it, but he got me to buy in. I'll tell you that much. So there you go. Continuing down the list, defensive rookie of the year. Cleveland had the number 1 draft last year. Okay. I think Cleveland, no one, people keep talking about how does Andrew Berry still have a job? To me, the reason Andrew Berry still has a job is because of, players like this. Carson Schweisinger, the linebacker for the Cleveland Browns, he wins defensive rookie of the year. Cleveland hit on every draft pick last year except for one, and that was their 3rd-round pick of Dylan Gabriel. You can argue that their 5th-round pick of Shedeur Sanders did not work, but I think Shedeur showed promise. I at the end of the day, he led the team in passing. Okay, the Browns had a rookie lead them in receiving yards, a rookie lead them in passing yards, a rookie lead them in tackles, and a rookie lead them in rushing yards. It's no surprise that they're picking at the top of the draft again when you have rookies playing at all the most key, positions right there at linebacker, at running back, at, quarterback, at pass catcher. But Harold Fannin Jr. led the team in receiving. Schweisinger led the team in tackles. Judkins led the team in rushing yards. Shedeur led the team in passing yards. It was a hell of a draft last year. They hit on everything. Sampson was a hell of a draft pick, the running back out of Tennessee. Right? Everything worked out of the draft last year except for Dylan Gabriel. But that's a pretty good hit right there. But Carson Schweisinger, I'm excited about him moving forward. That was a huge get, the linebacker at UCLA. And again, to have that type of defensive production from a rookie, when you're paying $40+ million a year to Myles Garrett, these are the types of players you need to hit on. Because if you're going to pay Myles Garrett that much money, you have to find guys like this. You have to hit on guys like this. People keep saying, how do you fire Kevin Stefanski and keep Andrew Berry? It's for moves like this. It's for draft picks like this, I think. I think that's why. I think that's why at the end of the day. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, 937-518-1410. You can text or call to jump in on the convo. But, the NFL Awards show last night. A couple more. Offensive Player of the Year, former Ohio State Buckeye, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Again, wide receiver in Columbus. There's no doubt about it. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, a true number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, a true number 1 wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, and the number 1 wide receiver, former Buckeye great, has a chance to win the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. When you look at Sam Darnold, to go to Minnesota last year and play with Justin Jefferson, and to play with the weapons that he had over there, and then to go to Seattle, I was like, man, you bring over Sam Darnold and get rid of DK Metcalf. The Cooper Kupp addition was a great addition to complement Jackson Smith-Njigba, but they moved on from DK Metcalf because of the confidence that they had in Jackson Smith-Njigba, and what a year that he had. What a year that he had. He scored 10. He had 10 touchdowns. He finished the season with 10 touchdowns and finished second among all players in yards per target at just over 10. On his way to making the Pro Bowl and being named a first-team All-Pro wide receiver. So not bad at all. A great season. He had over 1,700 receiving yards and led the NFL as far as that goes, and that is a franchise record, by the way. Just a great season. 10 touchdowns, 17, almost 1,800 yards. Jackson Smith-Njigba, offensive player of the year. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Talk a little Reds baseball. We'll talk some Ohio State football. We get a lot more to dive into here on a Friday. We'll be right back. 937-518-1410. That's the number that you can call or text. Jump in on the conversation. I'm Justin Kinner with you here on a Friday. I got a good kick out of this. Look, I don't know what to make of this. I have a hard time juggling how, as fans, we're supposed to decipher how to feel when we see things like this. I don't have it on the YouTube and the Facebook stream right now, but there was a video put out of Elly Cruz, and he is, it's the off season. It's the off season. He's about to start the longest regular season in sports is about to begin. All right. We are less than 50 days away from opening day. Pitchers and catchers report, I think, in 6 or 7 days or something. It's here. Baseball season is here, right? So, the season is starting here. Basically, things are getting underway here, the tail end of February. March, is spring training and everything else going on. And then at the end of March, it's opening day. And then it's April, it's May, it's June, it's July, it's August, it's September. And you hope a good chunk of October, if not all of October. That is more than 50% of the calendar year that you are just absolutely taken up by baseball. If I know as fans, we just become so we're just kind of not numb to it, but we're whatever. We're think about it. If you are a professional baseball player, your summers, you don't go on summer vacations. Think about what we do in our, I can't wait for summer. We go to Pensacola every summer and into the fall. We travel a lot. We do a lot of stuff in the summer. Right. And I can't wait for the summertime. I went out and I was walking around in the snow earlier saying, my goodness, can the summer please get here? Technically, although they're playing baseball and they're having fun, there is no family vacations for these guys. There is no getaways for these guys. I mean, they're traveling, but not traveling. They're working. All right. There's a difference between, I always say this, are you going on a trip? Are you going on vacation or are you traveling? These baseball, they're just traveling all over the place. They're not on vacation, obviously. They're not spending a lot of time with friends and family. They're not going to concerts. They're not having fun and going out and drinking with friends and family and having a good time. Not that it's all about drinking, but you know what I mean? I mean, the most fun months of the year are engulfed by baseball. So there's a video that popped out of Elly Cruz with a bunch of his friends, and they are riding around town on their dirt bikes, and they're just leaving town on their dirt bikes. They're going out, to the open area where they can kind of really put these babies into full speed. And not everyone, but there's a good chunk of people who are voicing their concerns on social media. Oh my goodness, I can't believe Elly's going to get hurt. I'm with those fans. I understand it. I would hate to, this video is cool of Elly kind of, talking with his friends and kind of, saying something to whoever's recording on the camera, whatever. I don't even know what he's saying. I don't even have the volume up. But I'm just getting a good kick out of everybody who are panicking on social media. I mean, like, for instance, this one, please, going around, guess he's not working on his defense this offseason. Shake my head. Come on now. What are we doing? I bet the Reds love to see him riding around with no helmet, because he also has no helmet on, by the way. Oh my gosh. Let's see, continue to go down the list. The buddy should learn from Tatis Jr. not to ride one of them. Someone else, they shared an article on here. In April of 2017, Madison Bumgarner suffered bruised ribs and a grade 1 or 2 sprained AC joint in his throwing shoulder during a dirt bike accident on an off day in Colorado. All right, there's another situation. San Diego Padres star Fernando Tatis Jr., as we just kind of alluded to, he was involved in at least one motorcycle accident in the Dominican Republic in December of 2021, causing a wrist fracture that delayed his 2022 season. It was initially just reported as minor scrapes, but the accident led to significant wrist issues and prompted the Padres to ban him from riding motorcycles. So I get why teams want to do this. They want to ban you from these type of activities. I remember a few years ago when the NBA All-Star Game was in Cleveland, there was a lot made about Myles Garrett participating in the NBA Celebrity All-Star Game. There was video that offseason of Myles Garrett, playing pickup basketball and dunking and going up and down. Everyone's like, oh, man, what if he gets hurt? He's paid a lot of money. What if he gets hurt? And I get the concern and I get the passion of fans who want to just lock these guys in bubbles and not let them do absolutely anything fun. I get it. I don't like seeing Elly De La Cruz on this as well. But at the same time, like, I try to put myself in their shoes. I'm like, my goodness, they're about to start spring training here in less than a month, in less than just a few weeks. We're going to have spring training baseball this month right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Like, we're not too far off from that. 162 games. Their entire summer is gone. Like, this is the last opportunity for them to go out and have fun. I don't have a problem with it, but I also understand. I get it. As a sports talk show host, I'm supposed to have some hot take on this. I just don't. I actually see both sides. Here's my problem with this to a certain extent, okay? The Cincinnati Reds denied Elly De La Cruz the opportunity to participate in the World Baseball Classic. And that's kind of what I was joking about, is Elly De La Cruz is out riding around without a helmet on dirt bikes, where we've seen players in recent years get hurt, and those injuries, have a lasting impact on their production the upcoming season. So the Reds tell Elly De La Cruz they deny him the opportunity to play in the World Baseball Classic so that he doesn't get hurt, but he's out here riding around without a helmet, riding dirt bikes and posting it on social media, talking on video, basically just not even concerned about who sees it or what the reaction is going to be. So I don't know. Is part of this him being a little rebellious? Because I kind of have a problem with teams telling players that they can't participate in the World Baseball Classic. I think that's wrong. I think it's going to be wrong. Like when we talked about what would the NFL, what would the Olympics, with football and the Olympics, what would that entail coming up in just a few years? Would the NFL actually ban players from participating in that? I would have a problem with that. I don't think these leagues should ban these players from participating in the World Baseball Classic or in the Olympics or any kind of thing like that. But, I think that's weird. But at the same time, it's like I could see why teams would look at this particular situation and say, Elly, no more dirt bikes. No more dirt bikes, no skydiving, no reckless activity whatsoever. But anything could be reckless, right? Like, you go out and you're playing with your dog in the yard and you're running around the yard and, you turn an ankle. Like, you're not allowed to play with your dog in the yard. You're playing with your kids and, you hurt your shoulder because your kid jumps on you off the couch and, now you got a bum shoulder for a bit. Are you not allowed to play with your kids? Where do you draw the line? You can get hurt doing absolutely anything, but I guess risk management, maybe not riding around on dirt bikes without a helmet. I think that's kind of fair if the Reds said, hey, what are you doing? I do have a problem, however, with them saying, hey, no World Baseball Classic. That I have a problem with. So that's what I was mocking about this earlier today. I'm like, are you kidding? The Reds ban him from the World Baseball Classic, but he's out without a helmet on, running around on a dirt bike. From a sports angle, I get it, and I don't like it. But from me as a human, I also get him saying, screw that, man. My life is baseball for 6.5, 7 months of the year. I'm sorry, but, I I'm not I'm not going to just not have fun ever. This is the final couple of days and weeks before baseball just takes over the rest of my calendar. There you go. Let me know in the chat below. I'm curious. Like, I know I'm wishy-washy and I flip-flopped a lot in that segment. It was a very bad segment on my end. But I can't redo the segment and change my ways on it because I'm so torn. I'm so down the middle on it. I don't want him to get hurt riding a dirt bike, and the best way to not get hurt riding a dirt bike is to not ride the damn dirt bike. But I also have a problem with telling him not to ride the damn dirt bike. I'm all over the place. I don't know. I also have a problem with them telling him he can't participate in the World Baseball Classic. And here's the other thing. Here's another reason why I have a problem with the Reds telling him that he can't participate in the World Baseball Classic, okay? Is if the Reds said, hey, we're about to give you a $600 to $700 million contract in the next couple of years. We don't want you participating in the World Baseball Classic. A little controlling. I don't really like it, but you know what? You're about to invest an insane amount of money into me. Okay, fine. But the Reds are not going to invest a whole lot of money into Elly De La Cruz. So if I'm Elly De La Cruz, I'm sorry, but the Castellinis, if you're not going to pay me my market value, why am I going to listen to you when you tell me not to participate in the World Baseball Classic? If you're going to pay me $700 million over 10 years on the going market, okay, cool. I think there's certain things that I have to sacrifice and give up for that particular type of money. But we all know that the Reds are going to pay Elly De La Cruz, so why does he need to be careful in that regards? They're going to treat him like a rental car. And I feel like that's what they did last year. There was a lot of people that were kind of furious when they found out that Elly De La Cruz was hurt last year, and yet they were still making such a big deal about him trying to play in as many games as possible. They were treating him like a rental car. I promise you this much. If Elly De La Cruz, if he was on, if we were a year out from the Reds about to pay him $600 or $700 million, if they were an organization that could afford it, I promise you they would have been extra careful with him last year. They would have been like, hey, we're going to give you the series off. We're not going to give you an off night. We're going to give you an off week. You're going to take that series off. You're a little banged up, and not just because he's not when he's healthy. I mean, but if he was banged up last year, I believe the Reds would have been extremely cautious. But because they know they can't afford him, they're going to run him into the ground, guys. Like, they're going to treat him like a rental car. They're going to treat him like a rental car. And if you're going to treat him like a rental car and you're not going to actually purchase the car, then don't put limitations on the car either. Let him participate in the World Baseball Classic. I get why you don't want him riding dirt bikes around without a helmet or riding a dirt bike at all, but I have a huge problem with telling him he can't participate in the World Baseball Classic. I would love to see it. I would have loved to see it. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. But, yeah, I can't believe, outside, when you go outside and you look at all the snow, you're not really getting the whole vibe of, oh, yeah, baseball season's almost here. I don't get that vibe at all. Hey, you know what other time it is right now, right? It's tax season. Tax season is here, and I'm sure you're thinking about who is going to do my taxes. Try my friends over at Arrowhead Tax Service in New Carlisle. Call Michael Maxwell and Joe Tanis today, 937-543-5770. They're ready to serve you at 100 South Church Street in New Carlisle. Arrowhead Tax Service gives back to the community through athletics and nonprofits, and all new clients save 10% off. Online at arrowheadtaxservice.com, where their target is your satisfaction. It's the Justin Kinner Show. 1410 ESPN Radio.